Hi, I'm Pete Parringer, spokesperson for the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Service. You may already know me, but we're here as with a conversation with the fire chief. Who is the fire chief, you ask? Well, the interim fire chief is Gary Cooper, and we're going to attempt to get to know him a little bit better. A lot of us, myself included, have known him for a long time, but we thought it'd be a good idea to kind of maybe get to know him a little bit better. So here we are. We're in the studio in the executive office building with Chief Cooper. And Chief, thanks for being here. It's good to see you, as always. And you and I, of course, have known each other for a long time, and I know what you've been in the department 30-some years.
My 32nd year.
32 years. So a lot of folks know you, but then maybe somebody might not know you. Somebody in our department, and maybe some folks in the community might not know who you are exactly. So we're going to try to get to know you a little bit better.
Sure.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? This is an opportunity for you to, spill the beans. Tell us about yourself. Where you've been. You've been around the block a few times. I know you live in Damascus. Tell us a little bit about your family and your upbringing, and how you got to be to this spot.
Sure. So I've been here since 1986. I came to the D.C. area to attend university. Graduated the American University in 1990. In the meantime, I was working towards bettering my resume to make myself more marketable for post-collegiate employment. I thought one of the cool things would be to join the volunteer fire department, right? The lights, the sirens, the excitement, and public service, right? Because we all are here for public service. That's why we're here. Did not grow up in a fire department family. I'm the only one in my family or extended family that has anything to do with the fire department.
Yeah.
Joined as a volunteer in 1989, Glen Echo. Glen Echo was closest to AU. It's all I knew, right? You drove by it, there it was. I lived over in Glen Echo. We rented a house. So I drove by the fire station every day. Very quickly came to realize and fall in love with the firehouse life. I didn't have any family locally. The personnel at the fire department, career and volunteer, became my family. Graduated college in 90, May of 90, bartended in Georgetown for a while, did a few other things, had tons of job applications out.
Fire department job applications, or
No, different.
just life in general?
Yeah, life in general. The job market in 1990 when I got out was not great.
Right.
So my peers and I, we were bartenders, lifeguards, that kind of thing. They weren't career jobs. Ended up, Dickie Mullins, retired Chief Dickie Mullins, was a life member of BCC. And all of my years, 3 or 4 years at Glen Echo, I became close with a lot of people at BCC and learned that they hire paid staff there. And back then that was competitive too. So I made every phone call I could make and sent letters and everything. Ultimately, 6 months later, I was working for BCC as what we called back then a casual laborer. I moved into Station 11 for a while, and the career guys started beating me up saying, hey, you're doing this all the time. Why don't you think about doing it for a career as much as you love it? Hey, that's not a bad idea. I never thought of that before. So I put an application in. Same thing with everyone else. Took the test, the interview, all the other steps, and then sat and waited and never heard anything. I want to say a year later, it was end of a fiscal year. The fire department came across some money that they needed to spend. They hired a class of 23 of us that were previously trained, went to the academy for 10 days. That was June of 92. And took my first assignment in July of 92 at ECC.
Those were the days, weren't they? 10 days.
Yeah.
Of course, life was really different then. So was that a class? What class was that?
So we didn't have a class number.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
We were called 92-1.
Okay, yeah. So that was before class 1, 2, 3, 4. That way you know it.
Well,
today.
we were in between two numerically identified classes. I don't recall which classes they were.
Yeah.
But they refer to us as PTI 92-1.
So you were a PTI, previously trained.
I was.
So yeah, you really set the stage for the future of PTIs.
Yeah, and people raised their eyebrows. I actually asked to go to ECC out of recruit school. I'd been around a little bit now. I knew that my first few years I'd be riding A2 and detailed to every work site in the county. So I said to myself, why not learn something different and maybe work a little extra overtime. So I ended up at ECC.
You know, I began my career in Prince George County. Of course, I was a volunteer, but I began my career at communications. Matter of fact, we probably interacted a little bit
We may have.
back in the day. But so I think, I believe, and truth be told, that I think you get a really good foundation
Absolutely.
for the service. You know all the general orders. You know where the units are located and how you interact with the community. So you have a good roots and good foundation there for sure.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt you, I also like to credit my time at ECC to any successes I had as a command officer, right? Because I kind of did it on the other side, and I listened to it. That was my job. So I think I learned a lot working there.
Yeah, so good shout out commercial for working at communications.
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
For sure. And that's a good point about your command presence for sure. So you're on the job. Like, who were some of the people that were in your class? Anybody
So
still around?
there's two left.
Okay.
Three of us total. Myself, Assistant Chief Dan Oberon,
Uh-huh.
and Master Firefighter Rick Bauer.
Okay, I
Yep.
think everybody knows those guys
Yeah.
as you.
Yeah.
So, and good for you. You know, anything else about your what got you here? So, volunteer, you're BCC, got the job, went to communications.
Worked there for 5 years and
couple
11
years.
months.
Yeah, good.
And a guy named Captain Tom Carr recruited me to come to day work at 33. I was a member of the USAR team. And he saw something in me he liked and recruited me to come there, and you don't say no to Tom Carr.
Well, in fact, I first met Tom Carr when he was a sergeant. I believe he was at communications. He was at communications. Yeah. Yep. Good old Tom Carr, that's for sure. So there you go. A little bit about your personal life. I'm going to put you on the spot here,
Sure.
but what is something interesting or something unique that most of us don't know about you?
Well, that you don't know about me?
Yeah.
Well, I wear it on my sleeve, so if you know me at all, you know I do a lot of traveling in the wintertime, back and forth to Boston. There's a sports team up there that I'm pretty connected to. What don't you know about me? I don't have a lot of. That's a tough one.
Well, I'll give you. You can chew on it a little bit. Think about it. But yeah, you are a Patriots fan.
I am.
I believe you still are, and have been for a long time. Go to a lot of the games and all that. So that is. I'll take that. That's something unique about you that some folks might not know. But anybody that knows you knows that.
Yeah.
I'm sure. I know. You've been thrust into this position. And we're glad that you've accepted the position of the interim chief. The department's been through a little bit here since the retirement of Chief Kinsley, and that has been a while now, I guess.
Yeah. So Chief Kinsley, his official date was 12/31.
Yeah.
But he left a little earlier to aim towards his returement goals.
And who was the guy before him?
Silverstein, Silverberg.
Oh yeah, Goldstein. That's right. That's right. Whatever happened to what's his name? I talk to him occasionally, and I know you do too. He's doing well, so he's doing good, and he and I used to sit in this seat here quite regularly. So we've been through a lot organizationally since Chief Goldstein left and Chief Kinsley, and the process for the selection of the new chief and Chief Bailey and all that. So now you're sitting in the seat as the interim chief. I know you've making some organizational, I wouldn't say changes, but you have an opportunity to promote some people and fill some holes there. We've been hiring a lot of folks, civilian and otherwise. Of course, we're always out recruiting and have a couple classes going on. What do you want to tell us? What can you tell us about organization or your philosophy or your vision there?
Well, so let me start with some of the changes we've made. They've all been made with a lot of thought and a lot of reason. Chief Bailey is now the Sports Services Division Chief, which allowed me. I was doing both jobs for up until a couple weeks ago. Putting Chief Bailey in Sports Services as he requested allowed me to kind of separate myself from that role and concentrate more on the interim fire chief role, with Assistant Chief Kerrigan managing the day-to-day operations right now. It's working well. We we brought Assistant Chief Radcliffe up to the second floor, to the fire chief's office to help me, right? So there's a lot more to this job that I realized, right? Or anyone new would realize. We all think we know everything, right? Well, I'm here to tell you we don't. And every day I come to work, I realize I've learned something that I don't know. I'm good with the fire department, right? I'm very comfortable. I'm okay with it, managing it day in and day out. I don't have the relationships in the county government that are necessary to be a department head. I've never, I did some time in admin services, so I've made some contacts here and there, but I don't have the robust relationships that Chief Radcliffe was able to develop along the way. So Ed's main responsibility right now is to help me either establish new relationships or strengthen existing ones, help guide me through county government processes that the fire department's involved in day in and day out, but unless you are in it firsthand, you don't know.
Right.
So he's been a savior. Along with that, Assistant Chief Franz Pinthier, promoted back in November. We decided a couple weeks ago that he'd be a really good fit going forward as the permanent Fire Chief's Executive Officer. Now, the cool thing about Franz is he's got a really important role, right? So he's learning from Ed right now. He's performing the role of Executive Officer with Ed in the background, learning the role. So his job, it's a tough one, right? He has to keep me straight. He has to learn his new role, keep me straight, prevent me from stepping in the landmines, ensure I'm doing everything correct, remind me of everything I need to know. Chief Howard calls him, he's my front man, right? But the really cool part about the job is he's been permanently placed. So one of the more important parts of his job is going to be when a new fire chief is selected and put in place to provide a smooth transition, smooth as possible, for the new fire chief and the workforce. So I think it's a pretty exciting position that he's in right now. Tremendous responsibility, and he's definitely built to fill the role.
Well, you've told me a couple of times, and I've made the observation that you are a process guy.
I am a process
very
guy.
much, you might say by the book, of course, but you're all about the process. I see a lot of that in Franz as well.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. That's a very key role. And you mentioned to keep you straight, but it's that position is keep the fire chief straight, and
Right.
That was an excellent move there. And of course, Ed, as you demonstrated, he's been around the block a few times and will be very key in making that transition. I'm sure Chief Howard Richards will also, make sure that she provides her 2 cents, since she was most recently in that role.
Yeah, so now's a good time to put a plug in that I have had a tremendous support team since I've been doing this since the 2nd of January. And I couldn't have done it without the supporting cast I've had around me for the last 3 months. And I am so appreciative and grateful. And I'd start mentioning names, but I'd leave somebody out by accident. But you all knew who you are, and thank you.
And you've got an excellent PIO staff in there too.
Well, you know who you are.
Hey, so anything else organizationally you want to talk about at this point? I know we don't want to maybe go down the road because there's been a lot of new hires, civilians in key roles that have been a long time coming. And so finally, I think there's some people in place. So that's all good, and I think I don't know, but I don't think we have too many more vacancies or people getting ready to come on board in community risk reduction, fleet maintenance, IT, FROMS. I mean,
everywhere.
All those places, everywhere. So yeah, that's been some good movement there.
And to answer your question, and probably the biggest question that I come across when I do these station visits, as the interim fire chief, I do not plan to make any structural changes, except for those that were already in the making, meaning stuff that was included and we hope to be approved in the FY25 budget. Aside from that, that's not my role. I understand that. It's not fair to anybody in the workforce or the new fire chief coming in for me to make all these changes that could potentially be changed again once we have a new fire chief. So
thank you for that, I guess. You mentioned the budget was, I think, at least from my seat, pretty good budget year as far as the fire department. Of course, you could have been a little better, but could have been a lot worse. So, what are some of the highlights?
So some of the highlights, if the county executive's recommended budget is approved, and we have no reason to believe it will not be, but it hasn't been yet. We're going to put a new EMS duty officer in place. Location to be determined. EMS operations section is performing a study where they'd be best suited right now, which will probably involve some other movement. Full staffing at Station 40 at their request.
Okay.
A girls' fire camp in July. What other highlights are there? Those are the big ones.
We have some additional staffing, I think, or recruit class or something.
Yeah, so
Station 40, I guess, was the new staffing.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
Yeah, yeah.
The budget season this time I've been involved in 8 or 9 of them now. It was the most relaxed one, is probably the best way to describe it. It was very smooth, very easy. We kind of changed philosophies a little bit this time, and it was successful.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about it.
Yeah, well, good, good. Speaking of summer, you got the girls' camp coming up, and we spend a lot of energy, and I think very successfully so, on recruiting and retention a little bit, career and volunteer. So I think I kind of see it from one perspective, but seems like it's challenging, but it seems like it's going pretty good. We're getting some good numbers.
Yeah, it's going well. The one thing we need to keep in mind is we're competing with all the area departments for the same people.
Yeah.
So the recruitment team's doing a great job. They're out there. They're very active. But it's also up to each one of us to, recruit potential members of our organization going forward.
Right, right.
And that brings me to community outreach and community engagement. Right. So that has been a priority. Chief Bailey made it a big priority over the last 6 months or so, close to a year. We're going to continue to move that forward as a priority of this organization. You spoke to some new positions. Community Risk Reduction just hired 2 program specialists that will work underneath Beth Ann Nessel in the area of senior citizen outreach, and I believe the other one has to do with children. I apologize if I got that wrong. We added Lieutenant Irv Smith to the community engagement, community action team. He's out there doing some great stuff with the community. Chief Pinthier actually just did a tremendous job reaching out to, and I'm going to get this number wrong, so I apologize, but he led or managed the initiative to teach public, hands-only CPR to more at-risk communities. And I don't remember the number of how many they touched, but I think they actually, it's not a certification, they actually trained 1,200 people. Is that
well,
right?
I wouldn't worry so much about the numbers, but it was very focused, community, Wheaton area for the most part, because statistically we had information that people were not getting, bystander CPR in those areas. So very focused, and it was very successful. It was a huge outreach there, so good stuff there, and I know they're planning some other things EMS-wise and AEDs, and there's a lot of exciting stuff going on in EMS, by the way.
Yes.
In fact, you just put out an email about the EMS Awards, which is a semi-annual activity that we each shift bring people together.
Yeah, it's one of the better things I think we do in the department. Where we could get better is advertising it amongst ourselves. So if you're available to attend, you'd be missing out if you don't. It's a really special couple hours. The ceremony is being held Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday next week, 9 a.m. in the terrace level cafeteria at Public Safety Headquarters.
And the thing about, at least my experience has been, these EMS awards this stuff happens every day. Our communicator, our dispatchers, 911 call takers, first responders, citizens. I mean, it's some amazing stuff. People are walking around today because of the willingness to all this working together. So the vital links, certainly. We've got some master plan stuff going on, stick to the plan. And I know, and that's been a great foundation for us to build on and go forward organizationally, but I know you have desire to get out with everybody and meet. You've already done a number of station visits and continue to do that. I know we're going to try to introduce some additional platforms, this being one of them, to kind of get you out there and get some feedback from folks. So I think we're looking for some feedback in this format, but I think generally speaking, you want feedback on everything.
I do, and I've made it a priority to do as many station visits as I can, and follow your lead on different formats on how to touch as many people as possible, right? And I believe that the feedback from those conversations is what is most important.
So I don't often do this, but I'm going to give you the last word. Anything else you want to tell the troops as we go into springtime? Got summer season coming. You've got some initiative and programs happening.
Yep.
You got the last word, Chief.
Okay, so I'll start with reemphasizing the community engagement, community outreach priority. That's going to remain a priority. The weather's changing. There's no reason not to get out there and touch as many people as you can touch in whatever manner you like, whether it's rolling up to a basketball court where you see a bunch of kids playing, or a community picnic or an event. Just stop and say hi. These people want to talk to you. And the more they get to know us, the more support we garner from them. And the last thing I'm going to say is, you see it at the end of my emails. Just remain focused on the mission. That's my ask to you.
All right. Remain focused on the mission. And until next time, if there is one,
right.
which I think there will be, we'll see you later. So thanks for joining us.